Well, good morning. Welcome to DCC Today. It's Friday, so you've made it through another week. Hope you have a good weekend coming up. We're going to start with our usual photo of the day, and this one was sent by Kurt Bidinger. And Kurt does some beautiful bird photography. Kurt, I think I'm right. This is a goldfinch, right? I'm not a big birder. I like birds, but my bird identification is a little weak on these, but I'm pretty sure this is a goldfinch. And if I'm wrong, I'm sure someone is going to tell me about it. All right, some announcements. Sunday coming up. Now, Burnett and I are actually getting ready to be gone for a couple weeks, some vacation, but we have some special speakers lined up while I'm away, and I think you're going to really enjoy them. This Sunday, October 4th, we're going to have one of our own elders, George CRABB, and he will be speaking both our online service and also preaching live at our 9 a.m. Sunday service. And then coming up on October 11th, we're going to have Brad Franklin from the Elijah Foundation. And the Elijah Foundation is involved in ministering to families who are dealing with various kinds of handicap. Tremendous ministry they have. Brad had planned to be here with us in person and make his presentation, but because of COVID-19 and all the travel issues, he is going to be joining us in a pre-recorded message. And so online, of course, you'll be seeing the message there. That Sunday morning, October 11th, we will be playing that pre-recorded message at the live service as well. Now, Pastor Britt will be hosting that service. Britt and Brad are good friends, and Brad has been helping us develop our own disability ministry. And so I think you're going to really enjoy that. But that's coming on October 11th. And then on October 18th, we're going to have Dan Stephenson. And Dan has spoken here once before. He is one of the top trial lawyers in the country. He also is a highly competitive swimmer. That's how he and Pastor Britt got to know each other. They both swam for UCLA years ago. And Dan is a very committed Christian who in his later legal career has become involved with fighting human trafficking. And Dan will be joining us live. He'll be speaking at the 9 o'clock service. And of course, he'll also be speaking on our online services as well. So that's what's happening over the next few weeks. This Sunday, George CRABB, and then the following, Brad Franklin, and then after that, Dan Stephenson. October 25th, I'll be back, and I'll be starting a new series on the book of Job. That's also going to be a communion Sunday, so if you watch online, you'll want to have your elements ready to celebrate communion at home, or if you're joining us live here for the 9 o'clock service, we will have these very nice little sealed containers that we'll be able to take communion together safely. Our in-person services, starting up this week, there will be no reservations required for coming to our 9 o'clock Sunday morning service. We've been watching the attendance numbers, and so far we have actually had a few seats available in the main auditorium at our 9 o'clock service, and we also have overflow seating if we needed it in the chapel. And so we're going to try going without registrations and see how it works. It certainly makes it a lot more comfortable and easy for all of you to not have to worry about making reservations. So that'll be 9 o'clock Sunday morning. You can just come. You still have to wear masks in the service, so none of that has changed, but we're going to try going without the tickets and see how that works. So trusting that goes well. If we end up with a consistent overflow where we're filling the chapel and we need to, we will consider starting a second service in the future. That remains to be determined. Some office help. Been talking about this, that we are looking for a new assistant secretary. And so if you are interested or know someone who is, please contact us and let us know about that. And let's talk about those DCC mugs. We've been asking you to send us your mug shots. And got a picture here for you from Julie Johnson, who appears to be using her mug as a mask. Julie, I'm not sure if that is an approved use for mugs, but it's a nice picture. Thanks for sending that. If you've got a mug shot, please send that to us. Take a picture of you and your mug, make it fun, and we're going to be having a drawing in a couple weeks. We're going to pick 5 people what we think are maybe the 5 best photos sent in, and each of those people is going to get a $10 gift card so they can put some coffee in their mug. People have also been asking if they can buy mugs. They would like to get extras for themselves or for friends. And yes, we do have some extra mugs available. And what we're going to do is we're going to sell these for a donation of at least $25 or more for a mug. And the proceeds from that is going to go to Living Water. You know, we're very involved with Living Water. They drill wells in areas of the world where there is no clean drinking water. And through that, also open the door to share the gospel about the living water of Jesus with people. And it seemed really appropriate to take mugs that are helping us to have a drink and use the money from them to help others have a drink, not only of physical water, but the water of life. So if you're interested in getting a mug, an additional mug, just contact the church office and they can tell you how to do that. Speaking of Living Water, Wednesday's program, you saw the interview we had with Pastor Britt and Martin Murray talking about the Living Water Gala coming up on October 8th. So I hope that you will be marking that on your calendar and plan to be part of that. Well, how about a devotional thought? This comes from Matthew chapter 16, verse 24. Then Jesus told his disciples, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me." You know, there's a lot of things in that I don't really care for. Jesus said that if we want to come after Jesus, it begins in denying ourselves. I really don't like denying myself. I read something a week ago. A guy said that he didn't want to brag, but he had finished his 2-week diet in 3 days. I think we all know what that means. He didn't do a very good job at denying himself. I don't think Jesus is talking necessarily about dieting, but he's talking about that propensity that we all have to live life selfishly, focused on what we want. He said, if you want to follow me, if you want to lead a life that truly loves others, the first step is being willing to stop making it all about you. And then he says, you take up a cross and follow him. Boy, you talk about denying yourself. A cross is actually an instrument of death. And yet that's what Jesus did for us. Remember that night in the garden, he said, Father, if possible, let this cup pass from me. And yet, not my will. He denied himself. He said, not my will, but yours be done. And he says to us, follow me. The good news is, when we follow him, while it sounds like death, what Jesus shows that it really is the way of life. And so maybe there's something you're struggling to let go of today. Let me just encourage you. If this is something God is calling you to lay down, to deny, it's not the way of death. It really is the way of life. And so follow him. Well, it's Friday, so we're going to take another installment of the interview that I did several years ago with Glenn Brown. So I think you'll enjoy hearing some more of Glenn's story.
One of the momentous historical events that I remember very graphically is the bombing of Pearl Harbor. We had gone to church and had just returned, and Dad had the car radio on, and we heard the announcement and what had happened, and it was as the President said, it was indeed a day of infamy, and I remember it quite vividly. Following my sophomore and junior years, during the summer vacation, I had gone to Kansas and Colorado and helped uncles who had wheat farms in the harvesting. And this was a learning experience. It was a fun time, and it was a way to earn some money. Most money I'd ever earned in my life, because Kansas and the Midwest in general had come back from the dust storm days and the drought days, and the land was quite productive again. And so I did this following my senior year as well. Went out to Kansas. I had an uncle there, two uncles that I helped on their farms, and then another uncle on my mother's side in Colorado who was a wheat farmer, and earned some money, and then came back home after harvest was over in September. My dad urged me to get a job locally there and live at home, but I had other plans. I went on the job that he had planned for me and worked through his associations to get me hired. It was at a well-known furniture factory, and after 3 days of placing little pieces of wood here and there, I said, "This is it." I wanted to go to college. I knew that the only way I could go was getting some help, and so the GI Bill was a great incentive, and I told my parents, much to their chagrin, that I was going into this service. So on October the 3rd, I went down to the recruiter, told him I wanted to join the Army Air Corps, and he made arrangements for a bus ride to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and on October the 6th, 1946, I was sworn in to the United States Army Air Corps. I was really blessed in my 3-year career as a member of the United States 1st Army, and in 1947, the Army Air Corps became the U.S. Air Force. It became a separate branch of our armed forces. So I was in there doing the changeover, and I was blessed furthermore by being sent to photography school and being trained as an Air Force photographer. And this was a fun job for a 19, 20, 21-year-old. When I was 20 years old in 1948, stationed at Randolph Field, Texas, I had applied there. That was the training center for pilots. And I had applied when I was there for a short time to go for pilot training, but took some of the testing and preparation, and then I got notice that I was too young. They had changed the age from 18 to 19 and a half, and I hadn't reached that venerable age group yet. So I settled in and said, I'll just do my 3 years. I won't make this a career as a Air Force pilot, and was very satisfied just doing my photography work. Fortunately, photography was not overly demanding. I had plenty of time. There was a university at San Antonio where I was stationed, and I was able to enroll for night courses at the university. Uncle Sam paid my tuition. All I had to pay was the bus fare from the air base, Randolph Field, into town where the university was located. And I was going through a tremendous growth period, not physically, but emotionally, mentally, and eventually spiritually. I had been something of a rebel. My religious background had been quite legalistic. This was the Southern holiness environment and culture, and my parents had fallen into that culture, and I had rebelled against it, and had one of the reasons I had insisted on leaving home and going into the Army. But there in the university, I was reading a lot of things that presented new ideas. One of the books that I read that really impacted me was The Varieties of Religious Experience by what was his name? Eminent psychologist and psychiatrist from Harvard, and he described the various religious experiences and how some of them were hypnotically induced and how some of them were the result of interior or exterior influences. But he did say that there were some that were apparently genuine experiences with a superior being who came into people's lives and made real changes. Well, I had been something of an agnostic simply because I did not want to believe in God, because if there was a God, then I couldn't do my thing. I had to answer to someone that was higher than my will. But now I ran into something else that was troubling to me. There were intelligent, highly educated people who gave arguments that there was no God. They were educated atheists. And so I began to think, is there a God or isn't there a God? And how can you know? Of course, my highest authority for God was my parents. And the book that they subscribed to, which was the Bible, which spoke of God as very much being a genuine, real being that had come among us in the person of Jesus Christ. So I was in this kind of turmoil, young man seeking to find something upon which to found his life. And so I was grappling, wrestling with these ideas. One night I came back from college, and when I waited for the bus, it was always near 10 o'clock at night in the big Texas sky filled with stars, and I would think to myself, now is there really a God, or did this just happen by accident? What? And if there is a God, how can you be sure? So I came I came back to the base, went upstairs in my barracks to the big dormitory, got into my bed, which was the second bunk on a two-story two-bunk bed, and couldn't go to sleep. I was just wrestling with these ideas. How can you know if God's for real? I said, and this was the thought that seemed rather revolutionary to me, but a very simple thought. If there is really a God, like the Bible describes, then he should be able to get through to me. And I'll just see if God will answer some of my questions. So I got up, put on my uniform, work uniform, and went over to the photo lab where I worked, and entered this big dark room, turned on no lights, just stood there for a moment. Then I began to pray. I suppose the first honest prayer I'd ever prayed as an adult, and I said, God, I don't know if you're real. I don't know if you exist. And if you do exist, I don't know if you're interested in someone like me. But if you're the kind of God that the Bible talks about, who has a concern for people and is interested in individuals, and if you can get through to me so that I know you're for real, then I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to let you be God of my life. And I stood there for just a moment, and all of a sudden, into that dark room, no music, no exterior influences, just me and God, if there was a God. Suddenly that room became filled with an awesome, awesome, awesome presence. Heard no sound, saw no lights, no voices, just this awesome sense of a divine being surrounding me. And I was awed and terrified, and don't know whether I said it out loud or whether I just thought it, but I communicated this: God, don't come on too strong. I don't think I'm ready for this. And slowly the presence just receded. And I stood there trying to take this all in. And I knew that God had responded to my prayer, that he was for real. And it was no longer if there's a God, but since there is a God, am I going to follow through on what I said? And that was my next battle.
Well, thanks for joining us. I trust you have a great weekend, that we'll see you on Sunday. Monday morning, back here on DCC Today, because I'm going on vacation, we're going to have a guest host. So tune in Monday and see who that is. And until then, God bless.